profile. I want to see the screen because hi everyone. Am I on? Okay, I think I'm on, right? Because I can't even see myself. This is the lapse I have seem to be having every week. Hi everyone. Good afternoon. How are you all doing? I hope you've had a very good week. I hope you've had I hope you've had a very good week. And I'm a bit heavy, I must say. I'm a bit heavy based on the conversation we're about to have today, the gap we're about to have today. You know, basically, how are people coping in the height of COVID? How have our life transitioned over the past several months? Uh, COVID came, as we all know, without warning. We were living our own lives, going about our day to day activities, and out of nowhere, boom, COVID occurred. Yeah. So today's talk is how are we doing? And I can tell you, I'm a bit heavy. Why? Is because for the past few days, I've been really speaking with persons, who have been facing different challenges, across the Caribbean region and even some parts in Asian countries, in African countries, because the network is very widespread. So it's of course not everyone's story is uh is challenging, not everyone, but of course everyone at the same time. Our life transition from one way or the next. Yeah. So today we have on Sharika Higgs, which she will introduce herself. We also have James Baggett and Erica Maduro. And these are all regular persons like me and you who lead regular lives just like me and you. Well, a few of them have Sharika and Erica has children and a whole family, which I do not have. So that's where we're different, right? But at the same time, we share so much in common. So without further ado, oh, let me say this also. For persons who are viewing, I would really and truly like you to comment, share your thoughts, ask questions, and also I'm asking you please just to share your experience. What has it been like for the over the past few months? Have you been laid off from your work? Were your hours cut? How have you been financially affected? How have you been mentally? How have you been coping? How are your children doing? How is your husband or your partner doing? Are you able to even maintain yourself? So just let's just have this as an engaging gap. All right. So without further, Sharika.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Like Keoma said, my name is Sharika. You can call me Sharika by my first government name since it's a casual setting. So I am the wife of Richard Patrick, I believe, and I'm the mother of three children. I have a 12-year-old, an 8-year-old as of next weekend, and almost 2-year-old. So thank you for the invitation, Keoma, and thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thank you so much, Sharika, for being here. I'm just very, very anxious just for us to dive into this conversation. Next up is Erica. Erica Maduro, if you don't mind, let the people know who you are. Remember your everyone is on mute. Okay, very
Good
good.
afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Erica Maduro. I am a mother of 4 kids. One 12 years old, one will become 9 in the next 2 months, and one 4 years old, and I also have a baby girl, 2 years old. And I am a dealer from casino. Right now I'm an employer because coronavirus. And thank you, Keona, for inviting me. And thank you everyone for seeing my story.
Thank you so much, Erica. That means so much. Thank you. Last but not least, the only male in the pack is James Baggett. James.
Sorry, had to unmute. Good afternoon. My name is James Baggett. Obviously, prior to the COVID outbreak, I was a tour guide along the boardwalk with Tri-Sports Eco Tours Department, specifically a tour called the Amazing Race. Due to COVID, the tours department has pretty much shut down. And these days I'm stuck sitting behind a desk and doing what I can.
Very good. Thank you so much, James. Thank you, Sharika. Sharika, let me start first with you. You have been working for the past several years. You have multiple positions actually at the Charlotte Brookson Academy. Can you just give us a bit more of your background and what your life was like before, your work life was like before COVID and the transition into COVID?
Yes, so I am in charge of the administration of the secondary school on the island, Charlotte Brookson Academy. So I have multiple hats. I'm office manager and I'm part of HR and finance. So my work actually came with me because even though we were going through the pandemic, we still needed to maintain the daily running of the school. So it became very difficult for me to have to split in what I normally do every day when I go into work with having to be at home as a mom and incorporating online learning with my children. So that's where the difficulty came for me, trying to balance that off of being full-time mommy now with full-time mom, full-time teacher, still working remotely and being a wife. So that was the difficult part of trying to figure out how do I make everybody happy due to this Corona situation.
Okay. Let me just have everyone just say a bit more so we can go in, because before I started to engage in a conversation, we will just be, talking only to one person. James, what was life like before COVID? What was your life like, and how did you transition into COVID?
Well, when the outbreak hit, I was already on standby pretty much due to our tour counts really starting to drop, because prior to the outbreak really striking the mainland, we would get maybe 50 to 60 clients every cruise ship on a tour, maybe 5 to 6 times a week. Well, we noticed the numbers started dropping, I'll say late February, early March. And the supervisor called me into the office one afternoon and said, "Hey, I'm going to pull you off for a bit because the numbers are dropping off really fast." And then, boom, outbreak hits. They shut everything down. And pretty much that's how it went. Lucky for me at the time, I had another job. I was working part-time over at Dinghy Dock, and I'm still there, but they closed. Their business has been so slow lately, and due to the COVID outbreak and everything else, like I said, like we're discussing, the hours have been cut back a lot. A lot of the customers that they relied on have really tinkered off to the point where we're lucky to get 8 customers in an evening.
Oh, how has it been right now for you? Can you hear me? Not hearing.
For a bit, your audio was muted. How's it been for me right now? Well, one thing that's lucky for me is prior to working for the tour guide industry, I was a cartoonist for the newspaper, The Today, which went defunct right after Irma. And they went to digital formatting sometime, I'll say a year after Irma put the print office out of commission. The drawback is, though, is I seldom get art commissions to draw and that sort of thing because, it's not really a necessary thing down here. So I'm lucky to maybe get 1 or 2 commissions every 2 to 3 months. I mean, it doesn't pull in a lot, but, it's basically enough to help keep the grocery bill. That's the thing going right now. Aside from that, I am lucky enough I'm being considered for a position at a place nearby.
Okay. And for Erica, what was your life like before COVID, and how did it transition into COVID, and how are things now?
Okay. Before COVID, I was working in a casino as a dealer in Hollywood Casino. I used to be able for my salary, my teeth. I have my boyfriend. We chatting friends, everything together. My kids going to school, do some activity, playing cricket, football. I was in them. Everything was normal, you know. Life was difficult a little bit, but not like now because now it's everything changed. My boyfriend is the only have work. I don't work no more because they don't wanted to renew my contract because everything is slow. The airport is closed. He told me he had to take all the contracts working. Only stay when the time permanent they have just try to work out the company was paying like for this 3 month lockdown, the company was paying, but the government don't pay them back. So they must have take the 20% for the permanence because the government didn't pay them. So right now I have 3 months almost that I don't pay no rent. And I almost become homeless because the owner is harassing me to pay. He don't understand this was a pandemic. And there are times that we don't have no even food here, so we have to wait for my boyfriend get paid to buy food, and he only get a minimum wage because he is a delivery driver in Domino's Pizza. And every time, so he gets some little change. He had to put gas, or he had to buy milk and pamper for my little kids. I have they still using pamper. He gets so much stress. He is smoking a lot of cigarette like than before, and my health look lose all my health is almost drop on because I had this stress teaching the children like I become a full-time mother too, you know. I had just children try to make doing activities at home because I don't want to make boring. My big one feel like he is in prison because we don't have like even money. Sometimes I think last week we went beach. It was a little bit more free, but it's not even easy for them. He wanted to go out. He want to play. He want to have the activity when the friend from the school before he. All my children is getting stressed. I was in you calling in the situation that I wanted to call mental health for my big son because sometimes he get aggressive. But I understand why.
I
Wow.
would like to interject what Erica was saying. The children are very, very much affected by this. I mean, they're small, so sometimes we think that they don't have much to say. But what I had to do with my children, I had to sit down and have conversations with them. And Erica and I have our children, and they're at such wide age gaps. They're dealing with it differently. So Erica and I might understand that you can't handle the situation with our 12-year-olds the same that we would do the 2-year-old because it's different. So then trying to, and it takes a toll on you mentally as a parent, you know, because you're trying to be brave for your children because they're going through something, but you need to break it down and explain to them exactly what's going on in the COVID, so not everybody loses their mind. So I could understand why she would want to incorporate the Mental Health Foundation. I would recommend it. There's nothing wrong with that because I did go on their Facebook account and they did have tips for children, how to help the children deal with the COVID situation. So I took some of those tips. They had tips for parents and tips for children. So I did take some of those tips because it was not easy. You love your children, but having to do the same routines every single day and then they're not allowed to be with their friends, school is not going on. It takes a toll on everybody.
I, yeah, but as a parent, you know, especially even let's highlight Erica's situation because everyone transitioned. As I said from the beginning, everyone transitioned. But with Erica's situation, as she stated, you know, she's like over 40 or something of our co-workers were released from work. And for the past 3 months, she was not able to pay rent. And there's pressure from the landlord as well. And there's shortage of income in the household because even though her boyfriend or her husband is working, his salary is not sufficient to maintain the entire household, you know? So when you have, as a parent, when you have that level, can I say stress? When you have that level of stress and grave concern to maintain yourself and to your family, and Erica also said, she's already also losing her hair, So how do parents then cope? How do we get the balance? How do you get the balance?
I'm fortunate, and it's not with everyone, but I'm fortunate to have a support system, because without the support that my husband and I received from my parents, the stress would be way too much to handle. So I would like to keep in contact with Erica after this is over to see how my husband and I can assist in any way. And I think that community support is important. So I'm hoping that through your platform, Keoma, this topic, that someone out there is listening to hear the cause, the help, because there's a lot of people on the island going through situation like Erica, like James. And even though my situation might not be as bad, I still do suffer with, right now we're dealing with finances because my husband's pay has been cut because their company has to make up the loss that they received during COVID. But even with the little that I do have, I would like to see how I can help Erica and her family after this. Anybody else, if y'all are listening, please try to help Erica and her family. And if there's anybody else in your community going through it, let's be one, the oneness, what St. Martin is all about, and help each other.
Thank you so much for that, Sharika. Thank you so much for that. James, I know you have a household as well, right? So you lost your job. How are you sustaining? How is your household being balanced at the moment?
Well, well, lucky for me, my wife, she's civil servant with the government, so she had the bigger pay of the two of us since I moved here. But usually these days, that would balance out. She covered the big things like the rent and the main bills, but I would supplement whatever else we needed and make up for what I could do around the household. And the stress is on her. I mean, it's similar to Erica's situation where one person's pulling in more than the other one, and it usually balanced out because despite me being my college degree really doesn't matter for much here as a professional because art majors really struggle anyway. So, but the thing that really helped balance it out though is I try to pick up the slack where I can, because I tend to be at the house more often than she is. She don't have to worry about who's the cooking, the cleaning, that sort of thing. Um, if there's anything that, I don't really ask for anything. So, and whenever I can splurge, usually the only thing I splurge on, like she knows, it's usually just the gym. So, but
And
that's,
and
that's it.
how is that for her? Because I know here in St. Martin, there is a thing happening as well with terms of government and the union for pay cut of the civil servants. And how is that also affecting your household? How is that affecting your wife? And especially knowing that your her partner, her husband's salary has also been cut.
Well, one thing I'm always quick to tell her is if push comes to shove, if things don't straighten up for the next year or so, I really have seriously considered leaving and going back to the States for military service. But while I've still got one more year of age eligibility, but at the same time, the stress level on her, it really does worry me about her because, it's a high stress job and you factor in the constant tension that the low level civil servants are under, especially whenever the higher ups are really getting hit hard, but because they're trying to hit everybody across the board to compensate, it really affects those of us living just above the means here on the island, especially whenever you figure that many of these civil servants are working two jobs to keep ends meeting, but they get penalized for working one by the government for doing that. And I've seen it happen. They will find out you work one job and tell you can either lose that job or we'll deduct your pay.
Mm. Oh my Lord. I'm telling you, for our viewers, I'm telling you this today is a very heavy topic, very, very heavy topic because for this today is actually our sixth episode. And I started this platform by speaking about on the COVID series, wanting to understand across different sectors, how are we coping in the height of COVID with regards to education, self-care, agriculture, mental illness, everything. And now we're here on having conversation with just persons like me and you. How are we affected? Everyone, regardless of your stature, regardless of your salary, regardless of whether you live in a small home or a big home, everyone is affected, not just in St. Martin, but across the region. So Erica's situation, James' situation, Sharika's situation is no different than any other person around the world. It's just a global thing. So who do we blame? You know what I mean? There's no one, I would say there's no one to be blamed because no one saw this coming, the pandemic, but it calls for preparation. So in the events of what if something like this is to happen again, we need to ensure as a community and as a country, we need to ensure that certain things are in place, especially given the fact that we're exposed to the situation right now. A lot of loopholes reveal itself. A lot of things that we never even thought of putting in place showed now that it's needed to be in place. So we can always go to our government and rant, but I truly believe as a community, as an individual, we have a responsibility to do whatever little we can take. Sharika take a responsibility just now by hearing and engaging with Erica. And it's like, hey, whatever little I have, let's see how we can assist you. And that is what we call community. It matters not who you are, where you're from. We are all human beings and we all need to do this together because we are no different. So Erica, I am I can only imagine, what exactly is happening in your household. You said you contemplating going to mental health, contacting the mental health foundation for your son. But how old is your son?
12. He is 12 years old.
And what
And
exactly?
he is the most sensitive one because he is the biggest one, but he is the most sensitive one because he feeling everything. It's like, right now he getting big, his shoes, nothing fits in him. So he see I don't have the money to buy things for him, or right now I'm not working. When I tell him I don't get no more contract, he all that he getting in his mind. So how my mother going to come out from this? Next month is my is the school open again, no? I
Yes.
don't have the money to buy. I don't have the money to buy the utilities for the school, and he all that he is in mind. So he getting everything that I suffer or my boyfriend suffer. He getting most because he is the biggest one. He see everything. When we running out of food, he see that too. Like we don't have no food, no enough food. Sometimes we just put food for them, and my boyfriend and me keep no eat. Only for them eat. So
What
he feeling so sensitive because he saw like his stepfather don't eat or me don't eat because we don't have enough food or just one week the children eat. So he be like, no, mommy, how you going to support yourself, no?
mm,
So he keep crying or he feeling like impotent because he can't help me.
mm,
That's what he said.
mm.
But I glad like I had some help from his school orientation. She sometimes calling him and talking to him, and she give him some support like be in this situation too.
Mm. And what about your younger children? How old are your younger children?
8, 4, and 2.
And
They really don't they really don't understand this situation. You understand? They really don't understand what happened. They really don't understand why we can go. They really don't understand why we I don't know like normal, More you try to explain them, they don't understand. They listen, but they don't understand like the biggest one.
mm, man, I really, really think we need to have more of these conversations because these are the cases we don't hear about. And I want persons to know this is not uncommon. This is what you see every single day. And not because you may see someone with a smile on their faces, or you may see people dressed nicely, wearing heels, or their hair is nicely combed, and you ask, hey, how are you doing? They say, I'm fine. It does not mean that everything is good. You know what I mean? And this is why we need to have conversations like this to normalize this, because normalize these occurrences. Because I want everyone to know, we want everyone to know that you're not weird. You're not different. There's nothing wrong with whatever it is you are dealing with. Everyone is dealing with this as well. But we cannot hold a stigma to it. We cannot be ashamed of it. We need to be able to talk out. Of course, I mean, there'll be certain things you'll be mindful of saying. I understand that. But at the same time, if we do not talk out, if we do not speak, if we do not engage and share, we won't know what our needs are and how we can assist each other. It may not be a financial exchange, but it could just be moral support. It could just be, sharing experiences. Oh, maybe you can do this. If you do it this way, it may be a better result, or let's have our children come together and have a play date, or let's go to Emilia Wilson Park here in St. Martin, or any Caribbean island, wherever you have open spaces. You can bring some persons together just for that outdoor relief. It helps as well. Yeah, but Erica, let me ask you, how is every man has a desire for their family. They have a plan for their family, a hope for their family. And with your husband, is your husband?
It's my boyfriend.
Okay, with your boyfriend having to be the man in your home. I know you said he's stressed out and he's even smoking more cigarettes, but how does he feel to see the children in the home being this pressured, and given the fact that, he's doing all he can, but at the same time, his all isn't enough? Like, what are some of the things he talks about, if you do not mind us asking?
Okay, he tried to be the strong one, no? Because sometimes he break down, but he tried to have the house like be the strong. So he make plans to have to go when they're off, to go with the children to beach, and put them to run in the sky and things like that. So kite and play some game with them in the PlayStation, but it's the same since 3 months ago. You understand?
Yeah, so the pressure is really going to come down harder, because as we see, like, we don't even know when the change is going to come. Sharika, you were working a full-time job. Now you're transitioned to working at home. You're managing full-time school at home with your children. You still have to maintain your work, your full-day job at home. You're a wife, so you still have to give attention to your husband. And besides all of that, you still have to make sure the entire home, all of that package is maintained and sustained. How in heavens do you do that? Like, how? What are some of the tips and tricks that we can learn from?
Well, what I had to do to keep my sanity was to get organized, because everything came as a rush. So every night before I finally had a chance to go to bed, I put a schedule together, and each child had an assignment to complete with my assistants during that time. Of course, the baby had more nap time, but everyone was up at 8. I had a breakfast time. Then we would know who's doing English, who's doing math, who's doing science, recreational activities, because you have to keep them stimulated. You can't be repetitive. You have to keep them not being bored. But my key was to just stop and get organized, because if I did not sit down and plan my day, I would be lost and I would lose it. So that's what I did.
But when it comes to organizing, how did your children even how did they deal with the transitioning from being in a classroom into now their home, and their mother or their parents, I should say, is their teacher, and their mother has this whole schedule for them. They're not seeing their friends anymore. What was that toll like on your children?
For my children, in the beginning, they were a little excited because they're like, okay, there's no school. So they were a little excited in the beginning. But then afterwards, they were like, okay, mommy is being a little reluctant with this thing. Every day we have to do some schoolwork, and mommy's pretty serious about it. So in the beginning, it was all fun. And then in the middle of it, it was like, oh, man, I have to do that, really? And then you had to keep doing it. You had to be persistent with it, because the minute you let out, the minute you relax, they're going to be like, okay, if I keep whining about it, then she's going to stop. So that's what I had to do. I had to keep being persistent, keep with the schedule, and these kids got hungrier, you know, during this pandemic thing. Side note, I was like, what's this appetite about? So I had to be extra creative because, honey, Lord.
I don't know. I'm listening to you and I'm like, my God.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
Plus working remotely, because sometimes you have meetings in the day, so you have to make sure they have something to do on the side to keep them quiet so you can focus on your meeting. So between 8 to 3, I had time for them. And then from 3:30, 4 o'clock, I had to start doing work, incorporate dinner time, because hubby's coming home just now, and then math ain't my thing. So hubby had to deal with the math when he came home. And then, of course, quality time when the husband is home, time for husband when the kids are going to bed, and then maybe when he's tired, I can sneak off and get some more work done before I can get to bed. It was a lot. It was crazy. Now that it's summer, it's cooled down, but you see the gray patch? You see it? Look at it. Oh!
Listen, Sharika, I think we definitely need your blueprint on this one. We need to know step by step what is it that you did, and maybe we can even do like a virtual tutorial, some kind of workshop, just so person, because the reality is you have this down pat, or it appear as if you have a down pat, but I'm pretty sure there were challenges along the way to even establish it. I saw about 2 months or so ago, you made a short video, you put it on Facebook, where you have the whole a blackboard, a chalkboard, every day the schedules, and I'm like, God damn, this girl is, it's like a real school.
But I had to do it. I had to do it because the work from the school, the work was coming in. Them teachers were on the ball. So that work was coming in. So it had to get done. It had to get done, because I couldn't be like, oh, I'll wait and do that later, because later would be too much. So you have to, the minute the work came in online from the school, get it done, get as much as you can done. Because if I didn't do that, there's no way I would have had time for my remote work. I'm still behind, but still, it's not that bad.
James, don't feel lonely there. I'm hopscotching. I'm going to Erica to get a little jump off on this conversation. But before I go to Erica, Erica, let me ask you this before I read some of the comments here. Erica, you have 4 children as well. You have,
yes.
I mean, Sharika is working, having to balance her full-time job, but now we're working from home, having to maintain her regular home, balancing her children, all of that stuff. But in your case, Erica, you have the reality of finances are not good. You don't know when it will be good. Your landlord is quote unquote on your back, having to pay the rent. You are already 3 months behind. Your boyfriend is working, but his salary is not sufficient to maintain a whole household. And that in itself, across the board, is so much uneasiness. Just sounds really light of a word. It's very, very heavy. And on all of that, you still have Zoom calls with the school. You still have to maintain that. Like, how have you been doing it with everything that's happening?
I had to prepare myself for everything because nobody put me in that situation. This is one. And I love my kids, and I had to be 100% for them too. I know I had this problem. I know I had this stress, but they need me. You understand? If I break down totally, how am I going to support my children? So I got I have my schedule like Charika too, because I had to be in the morning when they're in the school, cooking, you know, feeding them, bedding the small one, putting some activity to them, even dancing with my kids. I have my friend come work from my children godmother. She sometimes she come to help me out. We go walk with them too,
Very good.
you know.
Very
So
good. I love, listen, if you all realize, we talk about resiliency, yeah? We talk about resiliency. There is so much happening in everyone, with everyone, but at the same time, we face the reality and we accept what it is, and we still learn to manage our current circumstances. And I must say, I applaud each and every one of you for it, because even James, a lot of times you will hear, men will feel a bit um less of a man because his salary is dropped, he's no longer working, and his wife is taking the helm financially. But James said, and this is for the men too who are paying attention, he's identified what he can do, the little he can do. So he makes sure that things around the house is taken care of. He makes sure that the cooking is taken care of. So when his wife comes home, she doesn't have that to deal with. And that's what partnership comes, that's what partnership is. We need to be able to, should I say, put our macho, the men macho, the masculinity, put it aside and let's be realistic, because there are times where you really have to step up. And there are times where, in James' case, and it's no pressure. The circumstances may be a weight, but at the same time, there will be times, whether it be COVID, whether it be a natural disaster, regardless of what circumstances, there'll be times where either the man will have to rise up and take care of the household even more, or the woman would have to do that, the wife would have to do that. And a man should not feel any less of himself, but he should then identify ways of how can we do this together. Yeah, would you agree with me, James? Would you agree with me?
I'll agree with you there. I feel like it's kind of pressured, really, especially on the male side of the species, to be the more provider mindset. Especially, I think it's more predominant in Caribbean countries, especially because coming from the States, we get that, we have that, but it's generally a little more acceptable these days for if the husband is working from home, if he's not maybe pulling in as much financial standing, then it's understandable. But down here, it's still very much kind of anachronistic in some ways. It's still the very much, yeah, the man does this, the woman does this. You are not the man if you are not doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I told somebody one day, and they asked me, they're like, why don't you go work in a field outside of your specialty or outside of your background? And I told them, I'm not going to lie and risk dragging a business down or potentially damaging a business's reputation by lying my way into a position, because that makes that business's quality go downhill, which means I get a bad reputation on my CVs and resume for not working well. And I'm just saying, if you can do, you do what you can. And I was brought up, if you cannot do that, if you every little bit helps. My mother was the type, she would always tell me, no woman wants to marry a man who is going to just sit on his duff whenever she's not around and watch TV. So
That there, what you said, is really a whole topic by itself. That is, Sharika, I think everyone would agree with me. There are persons who are viewing our mindset in this part of the hemisphere is like that. We believe a man is the head of the home, a man is supposed to do this, a man is supposed to do that, and a woman, even though she's working, she should still be the caretaker of the home. She should be like, they categorize it as assigned responsibilities for the sexes, for male and female. And times are changing. And I'm not going to say we need to lose the essence of whatever you want, if it's culture or whatever that is, but I personally don't subscribe to it. We know what we have to do and we do that. But I must say, James, I do applaud you as the only man on this panel today And I'm pretty sure, there's so many men who are also listening to you and they can learn from that and begin to even a nugget, even a pebble, change their mindset in that way to see things and not feel less of themselves, because even with Erica's situation and even to Sharika as well, Sharika mentioned her husband too, your salary has not been affected, but your husband has been. So how is that? How does he deal with that, Sharika?
Well, he's disappointed. I guess it's a male ego thing because he's so used to, right? You see, James is like, yo, because he's the man, he's the head of the house, he's the breadwinner. So then he was put back. How does he explain to his wife, his partner, that things have to change even more? I mean, God bless Windward Island Bank. Shout out to Windward Island Bank for giving everyone a break on their loans,
Oh yeah,
right?
definitely. First
Shout out to,
CIBC First Caribbean too.
thank you, banks. Thank you so much, right? But still, they're coming for the money just now. So we gotta prepare ourselves for the inevitable. So for him, it was heart-wrenching, it was heartbreaking. I mean, he understood because he had no control of it. But then the reality is now we gotta adjust some things. Things gotta change. And it wasn't anything that he was too proud to say, hey babe, listen, don't worry, I got it. I can do this and that, and we're gonna feel it.
Mhm.
He, I saw him just shut down. He broke. He didn't want to talk about it. This happened. Just letting you know, so you won't be surprised. We'll have to cut some stuff, and then he shut down. So this whole COVID thing affected, like you said, Keoma, everybody in every aspect, and mentally it messed us up too.
Yeah, it really did. Alicia Macpherson, Alicia said, oh God, I don't know what's happening here because whenever we do gaffing, I can only see 4 comments at a time. So we're just about to read Alicia's own. Alicia, if you do not mind, you mentioned something just now about having a partner is gold, but having a partner sounds like gold, but it's what kind of partner you have that makes a difference. Because anyone can have a partner, but it's what kind of partner you have. I see Erica is also nodding. Erica, you agree with me on that one? Because Erica, let me ask you, even though things are so challenging right now financially for you and your partner, it sounds like you still are working together to balance it off as much as you can. You mentioned, your boyfriend tries to play video games and engage with the children to help to bring a bit of relief as well. You said also you try to dance with them in the home, so that still is, you're still aware of the fact that it's not only the stress, but you still need to sustain the livelihood, the well-being of your children.
Yes, yes, because you had to balance everything. It's not so much stress, it's understanding. You're everything overthinking everything, how we're going to come out from the situation, but you can make the children suffer, you
Mm,
know? You can make the children suffer. You suffer. I try the most possible to make them to feel how I feel. So I try every day to be happy when then I try every day to be the best for them, no? To make them happy. My boyfriend too. We sometimes we come outside to talk about every problem we have, how we're going to figure out this, how we're going to figure out that, for not make the children listen,
mm,
you know? Sometimes when we just have one the food, we come outside and we start talking what we're going to do tomorrow, Erica. The children don't want food.
mm,
But we're not talking inside because we don't want them listen that they're not feeling worried about us. So we every time we come outside to try to make a plan for every day
mm.
and make
Man,
the children and make the children like to everything is okay, everything going to be okay. Make them faith, believe in God, pray for the situation, going to make I telling them going to make a way We're going to come out soon. It's going to be just a bad dream. So make them feel like one day we're going to be normal, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's you know, it's just three persons, but it's four of us here today, but three who are really sharing their experience. You know, for me, I can say I do not have a family. My family is my sister, my nieces, my brother. Like that is mine. I am not married. I do not have children who lives in a home with me per se. But I can't compare my life, but my life too has been affected, but it's nothing to compare. You know, if I have I on my own can manage my own expense. You know, I can decide I do not have to worry about, okay, like Erica, you know, school is going to start back in August. How am I going to do this? You know, I do not have that to worry about. I just have to make sure that my expenses, my monthly commitments are taken care of, you know, and as Sharika's what you stated also, there are persons who took advantage of the bank's moratorium, and but at the same time too, how now that September is coming, how do we then exactly, how do we then attend to that? You know, utilities all across the region, utilities. I mean, it's good to have that break, but the break is what it was good, but what's going to happen when we have to pay because people are still not working? We're actually even more in debt than we were before anything, before this whole COVID started.
Yes, and if I can interject, I know that recently, and let's talk about where we are in St. Martin, okay, because that's where we're located right now. I think that it is an economic hardship for the entire island. And I don't want, like you said, Keoma, to blame anybody for what's happening because we didn't predict that this was going to happen. But I think as a society, we're a little too reactive.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to fix things when things happen and not think future tense.
Mm.
So once again, we've been hit. We went through Irma, and now we're going through COVID, and we're trying to fix what's happening with the now. We're not planning for what could happen in the future.
Mm.
We are taxpayers. Let's be honest. We're taxpayers. All right. We have assigned persons. I don't want to get politics because, you know, my husband, that's one of his things. So I don't want to do that up in this situation, but let's be real. Okay, we are taxpayers and we have the leaders of our island. We are trying to put our confidence in you to help us. So let's look beyond the problem, which is the one industry we have, and let's be a little creative and think of ways that we can help the society in case something like this happens. You know, we don't have to rely on anybody else to give us a little help. Okay, and listen to the people when we're talking. That's what we need to do. We need to have backup funding. We need to invest in proper industries for the island. We need to do those. Don't have me preaching up in here and I'm wearing a turtleneck, getting a little warm.
Yeah, I know, right? You see me adjust.
Girl,
it's getting hot. It really is.
but we need community support too.
Yeah.
I applaud the library. I saw the library had story time for the children. So I love that. It was a nice little moment to get the kids to hear a little fun story time. We need other persons in yes, everyone is affected. I get it. We're in the same boat. I get it. Okay. But the boat is we're in the same storm in different boats, but the storm is affecting us differently. But let us come together as a community, have a back to school drive. Have a back to school drive out and to help the less fortunate children get their bags, get their pencils, get what they need. I know that there were certain persons out there giving free food. We need to make that a little more public. So persons that are hungry, they could know at this time I can go get something for my family to eat. So we need more community involvement and we need to make it more public out there because there's a lot of people that need help. But it needs to be, thank you for your platform, Keoma, but I'm praying and I'm hoping that persons are listening and we can be a little more cautious and think ahead instead of trying to fix problems when they happen. We need to be prepared for the worst before the worst happens.
I agree with you. I agree with you there entirely. And to add to that, I mean, there's so much more I can add to what you stated. But there are persons in our community, and this we're in St. Martin. But there are persons who are in Canada. Someone just commented. Let me just read that. Someone just commented, Precious Casey. Here in Canada, I think she meant federal on payments plus government helping those who are unemployed. So the assistance from the government helps. And then Akiba King says, this pandemic definitely affected me and my family mentally. For the first time in my life, I had a panic attack, right? So this is what is happening day to day. But at the same time, we need to have more conversations like this. Persons, I mean, Sharika, I know you have no worries at all talking out James the same, but for persons like Erica, because there are so many persons who are laid off. Erica, I think she mentioned to me about in Hollywood Casino where she works, about 40 persons who are laid off there. So if this is Erica's sole situation, we are hearing from her. Erica, let us ask you this. Do you speak to your co-workers? What are some of the challenges they face?
Excuse me, the question again. I didn't hear it good because my internet was.
There are about 40 plus persons, I think you mentioned to me, that was laid off from your employment, right? Hollywood
Yes.
Casino. So how are other persons coping? How are your colleagues coping? Do you talk to them? What are some of the challenges they face? This is not a
very well.
thing.
All them had different situation because they were one of them had boyfriend, but the boyfriend is still no working too. So husband no working needed. So most of them have this situation problem too. Most of them was or so similar situation as me.
And
yes.
as I mentioned just now, this is not just in St. Martin.
Even the permanent workers that stay there, they're in bad situation too because one of them work and now right now because the government don't pay the casino, they're going to take the 20% for their salary. Right now they be crying because they had to buy school things for the children. They had to pay rent because husband no work or some of them don't have no husband, you know? It's not easy. And they said they're going to charge the salary by 20%. They have to sign it because if they don't sign it, they're going to take the 60% and give you less hours to work. They're obligated to sign it. It's something. It's not easy. It's tough for everyone.
It really is. And as I was saying, it's not just in St. Martin. This is global. But we're talking. I'm thinking about the Caribbean region as well, because our main economy in the islands is tourism. Our airports has been shut down. There's no tourists. I'm pretty sure everyone is paying attention to what's happening in the US. All of a sudden, there's a surge, an insane surge with corona cases again. What's going to happen now? St. Martin has one economic pillar, which is tourism. Our students go away to study hospitality, to come back and to serve in the hospitality sector. A lot of persons start companies, businesses to service that sector. So it's not just the hotels that are closed down, because there are persons who start small businesses that service those establishment as well. So there is a domino effect across. So it's not just in St. Martin. A few days ago, I was speaking to, this is a grown man in another Caribbean island. He worked for all his years. He put his daughter through school, nursing school. She earned her BSN, her master's, and he paid it from his pocket. He paid all of that from his pocket. And right now, right before COVID, the company he was working at decided, not before, at the break of COVID, that they will shut down. It's also within the hospitality sector. Company shut down, and at this very moment, and even to like 2 months ago when we were talking, he explained to me this is a grown man. I'm repeating that again. A grown man who put his daughter from his pocket, paid for her bachelor's or master's degree from his hard working pocket. And right now, rent is a challenge for him. Food is a challenge for him. So I want persons to know that this is not for the poor of the poor. The people who, do you know how expensive it is for education in the US? To pay for your child degree from pocket, and now you cannot even maintain yourself. I never even ask him if it makes him feel less of a man, because I don't want to even touch on that, but I can only imagine how challenging it is for him. And if him, how many others as well? How many other men who have the pride of taking care of their household, making sure that their wives and their children are well taken care of? How many of them face this challenge and they feel embarrassed to even have a conversation with their wife? Because it happens. How should they cope? Who should they go to? Because as James say, our mentality here in the Caribbean is totally different from the bigger countries. So men would even think it twice to even go to, as Erica is contemplating her son going to mental health foundation, not because he's crazy, but sometimes you just need to have another person outside of the household to assist in talking and bring a different level of clarity and ways of how we can assess a situation and how we can go about coping moving forward. So I want to really mention that, because the last time we had a gap, 2 episodes earlier, we spoke on mental health very detailedly, and there's a stigma. So persons who are experiencing all of the weight right now, you will be challenged mentally, whether it be anxiety, depression, insomnia. And I want you to know, we all want you to know, it is okay. It is okay to seek some kind of help. Yes, you may have a friend who you can talk to, but sometimes your friend will only react to what you're saying. You need to have someone who is trained, who is qualified enough to really give you an unbiased advice on how you can cope and mechanisms of how you can cope. Anyone agree with me there? Anyone want to add to that when it comes to mental illness? James, how about you?
I can cope. I can chime in on that one, especially whenever I've noticed mental health down here really does get stigmatized. I mean, you see people walking up and down through. Since I live Cold Bay, it's quite common to see a couple of local fellows walking up and down the street who it's obvious that there's some mental illness issues going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than these gentlemen, because it's two gentlemen I'm talking about, I've noticed nobody tries to get these gentlemen any help. And the first thing people are told is, oh, they have to want help. And that is true. Mental health is something you got to want to help. I mean, I suffered depression issues in college, anxiety and stuff like that. I know a few people close to me who have mental issues. But the thing that helped me the most, because like a lot of college students, when I was at university, I developed some anxiety and stuff like that. But the thing that got me through those issues was counseling. And the stigmatization of it, I've noticed specifically down here, is, oh, let God handle it, or, you need to pray it away. And I'm sorry, I'm not religious. So I'm like this. I'm pointing it out there for anyone who may be. But you cannot pray. You can pray, but not necessarily. But unless you seek a medical professional, something like that, you're only fixing part of the problem. You're fixing it more for yourself than for the person who's suffering these issues. And that's whenever these people who have these mental troubles, families should encourage them to seek out these help, the mental health foundation and stuff like that. Not just, say, oh, you'll be fine, suck it up, walk it off, whatever. Sometimes you really do need that extra help. And when you see somebody so spazzed out from stress that they're hearing voices in their head, or they're physically just shaking from just the anxiety that they can't sleep, they can't, eating bothers them, they don't want to talk to even you, they hole up in the bathroom.
Mhm.
You see this sort of happen to somebody and you're just like, what can you do? And like I said, this people at Mental Health Foundation and mental health professionals in general know how to help with this sort of thing. And it goes right back to something like we were discussing about how men feel during this COVID, Erica's boyfriend feeling the stress and all that sort of thing. You really don't know how to cope whenever you see somebody struggling and you want to help them but you can't. Like I told my wife one day when it came to my job and this virus, if it's somebody breaking into my house, I can at least stop that temporarily. You can't go and start swinging on a virus, and you can't, there's no way to stop something like this outright that you can help. So
what you just said is on point. But just before this I lose this comment because it's like 4 comment and then another one come and I lose it. So Roxy Simmons, she commented and said, this is what I'm saying. This pandemic has affected people in so many ways. Some are mentally, financially, and spiritually drained. So people are even getting physical. This has affected everyone. It has no gender, rich nor poor. We are all on the same playing field. And that is exactly what this is. And we need to realize whenever there is a disaster, your social status, your financial status, of course, the financial status helps us, helps persons a bit. But we're all in the same line in the supermarket. We're all scrambling for the same things. Our needs are all the same. But who suffers the most are the ones who are on the lower level of the work field, of the working chain. Those are the ones who suffer the most. So we're in for about almost an hour. Dalia said, I feel a lot of our elders don't believe in depression, and this is so serious. I see Sharika shaking her head there.
I was just gonna mention that we have to check up on our elders too. So it's everybody. It like one of the viewers said, it has no pause on any gender, any age, anything. Everybody gets affected by this pandemic. And I still in my heart believe that we are a community on St. Martin and we need to get more involved in helping each other. Instead of sitting around and wondering how we're going to get help, let's start with ourselves and start helping each other. We might not have much, but it starts there. It starts with that neighborly love.
I agree with you. I do agree with you. You mentioned the elderly. Last episode, we had our topic the focus was elderly. And I learned so much because I'd never had any conversation before on any level, to be honest, on elderly. And it was just intriguing to me to learn how much the pandemic really affected the elderly population in terms of withdrawal and isolation, not having to see their families anymore. But for the working class and persons with family, like, my God, I'm really not baffled, but I'm trying to find what can we do moving forward, because I do not want this to just be an entertainment, a conversation, but I want it to be thought provoking. I want every person who is looking right now and who will look at the replay of this video to be provoked. I want you to be mentally provoked. I want you to be socially provoked. I want you to be financially provoked. I want to understand how blessed you are, regardless of your circumstances. And we can't complain. We can naga every now and again, but we cannot complain, because look at Erica's situation. And Erica is no different than any one of us. And even though she's in this situation, as she said, they still find ways of how they can dance with their children. They can play with their children. They can do things with their children, because at the end of the day, we all have a responsibility. So regardless of what the government is doing or isn't doing in our own country, regardless of what those things are or aren't, we are the ones who are responsible for ourselves. And we now have to make a decision as to how we will move forward. And again, this is where it starts, having conversations like this. And I will tell you, I definitely would like to have another conversation. It was very challenging, you know, having to speak to persons behind the scenes and say, hey, would you join me in this conversation? Persons were very reluctant, you know, because they don't want their name to be mentioned. Let's make it anonymous, because there's a stigma. You know, even so when I contacted Erica, and I must thank Terrence Ray for this, because Terrence Ray shared our flyer on his WhatsApp status. Erica saw it, she commented, he shared a comment with me. And I really and truly was very like, oh my God, I wonder if Erica would be willing to come on live and share her experiences with us. But I'm very happy you're doing it, Erica, and I'm very, very confident that what you're doing right now, your decision to be on this platform, will begin to normalize every other person who is in situations like yours or similar, like every other person. It begins to see, hey, you are no different, and they are no different from any of us. We all have the same challenges. So Akiba said, James, do you need additional help? Yes. But prayers, you need to believe when you pray. Okay, we're not going to even touch base on that, because then it would become a religious talk. So that would become a religious talk. So I won't do that. This conversation has put my current struggles in perspective. Alicia McPherson said, and I'm feeling a bit more appreciative, especially after listening to Erica. Erica, you heard that? You heard that? Let me read it again, Erica. This conversation, this is Alicia McPherson, right? Alicia said, this conversation has put my current struggles in perspective, and I'm feeling a bit more appreciative, especially listening to Erica. So basically, Alicia is saying, after listening to your situation, she feels even more appreciative of her own, because her situation is not as bad as. So this is what this is like an eye opener. We begin to do self-check. We check ourselves. And for what you think you didn't have or you're nagging about, this conversation is to really check ourselves. So how do we move forward from here? James, how do we move forward from here, James? What are your suggestions? As a community, what can we do to help each other? I mean, there is the home growers in St. Martin, people from all across the region has been planting. How can should we not barter, but for persons who are planting, how can we at least help persons like Erica with maybe some greens or, you know, some kind of goods? I'm just, you know, these are the resources we have. So how can we utilize what we have?
One thing I'd recommend is start trying to find a way to utilize more agricultural means on this island. I've been hearing there's been a push for it for years, but they tend to overdevelop, especially on this side of the island. And it's like when someone gets a piece of property, they concrete over the whole thing immediately. And I'm just like, if you want to grow something, you got to put the work into it. I mean, I'm from a farm town. It's literally you're at the odds of the elements. And even though down here the elements are a little harder than where I'm from, you can do it. It's just going to take time and effort. And the thing is you got to learn to play the long game. This whole thing, that's one thing that it reminded me of. The COVID thing has basically had to remind me of, never set out to play the short game, because if you do that, you're going to trip up. You will run out of what you need. You won't necessarily have anything left over for the long haul. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So that's the only thing I guess the whole community needs to learn how to do, is handle things long term, not fast gratification. You know, like that's one thing I guess you get in the habit of when you get paid. It's like, okay, I've been paid. Let's go. Let's spend. Let's spend. Let's spend. Let's spend. I'm like, set aside, plan it out, do what you can, so that way when the times really do get tough, you can get through it. And like I said before, I've been extremely lucky.
I didn't hear that. You said, like what you said before, I didn't hear the last thing you said.
I said I've been lucky, though. That's one thing I've been always will say. I've been extraordinarily lucky to have a good community network of friends and family who've helped me through this sort of time and helped me keep my head screwed on straight.
That family support and friend support is very necessary. But I will do a jump off on what James just said. This, we need to all realize, understand, accept that this is not normal times. So the way we spent our money before, we cannot spend it like that anymore. The amount of dinners you will have out, you have to be mindful as to how you spend. The groceries you will throw away. Oh, this thing is rotten, or oh, I didn't eat this food. Let me just throw it away. You need to be so mindful now. Put it in the fridge. If it's good, put it in the fridge, put it in the bowl, put it in the fridge. We have to be able to preserve. When you go to the grocery store, make a shopping list. Don't just come and pick up stuff. You need to know how your money is being spent. You need to know how your money is being spent. You need to know how much gas is in your car. If you do not have anywhere to go, stay home, read a book, use the time to develop yourself, use the time to do courses online. They are, believe it or not, they are free online courses. So for this time where persons are not working, you're stressed out, what can you do at home? Utilize that energy, utilize that time when your children are doing their schoolwork, when they're out with their, with their friends or so. Use that time to elevate yourself. Personal grooming, personal development, to do self-reflecting as well. Examine who you are and who you would like to be. You have the power to create that person you would like to be. But again, we cannot live the same way we were accustomed of living before COVID. Times have changed. There is no money. Money is like, it's like a dried up drain right now. And every little bit we have to hold on to it and use it wisely. We need to shop wisely. We need to do things wisely. As again, if you have no reason to be on the road, stay off the road. You might be like, oh, I'm bored, but the gas in your car is going to finish. And where would you have money to replenish it from? So these are the things that we have to really do, and do not feel like, oh my God, I'm struggling, I'm suffering to the extent I'm gonna die. You can be creative. Erica's being creative. James is smoking right now his pipe, and Sharika, she's home. When I had a conversation with her, she was like, listen, she's making peach cobbler. She has a movie night with her husband in her home. So Erica, for persons, okay, let me go to Sharika and then I'll go to Erica. How do you, because you have a family, yes, and children, and you also have a husband, how do you still, on that budget, still maintain, that intimacy? I'm not talking about sex, but the intimacy, and maintain the marriage and the relationship.
We could talk about the sex thing, but that's the next. Okay, focus. But that is very important because, like we were talking about, that mental drain that's going on from the pandemic. You need to have that distraction, and it feels good that you can talk about other things that's going on. You can still be creative and cute, romantic, instead of being focused about, okay, how are we going to pay that bill next month? Sometimes it's good to have a break and have that time for each other, because at the end of the day, your husband is your partner. And if one is mentally stronger than the next, then that's all good. But if you're both suffering mentally together, then you need that break from the stress, and you just have to be creative and find the time. And don't think about the worries, because they're there. They're there, and they're just gonna make you sick if you keep dwelling on them. Just take a time to just put the stress aside. It's hard, it's not easy, but it's necessary.
I think Sharika, we need to, not now maybe, but we need to really talk on some of the ways of how you said it's hard. Some of the ways you go about being creative and spending time with your significant other. I would let me read one comment, just to have the engagement going. Keoma said, it's also important to search out opportunities for digital learning to upskill.
I've done that.
Sorry?
I've done that during the pandemic. So I've done that. I went to my free workshops. I've started my platforms. I have my alopecia page support group going on. I have my vegan support group going on. And I've just signed up to be on the board with one of St. Martin's most wonderful, I need to give them a shout out, wonderful schools on the island that cater to our little superheroes, which is our special needs students.
Very nice.
I'm on board. I'm excited about that. But that is true. If you distract yourself from the reality of the pandemic, you're going to survive because there's life beyond COVID. You know, it's gonna end soon, but you have to start being fulfill yourself, because what's gonna happen when it's all over? We don't know when it's gonna be over, but what's gonna happen? Then you're gonna try to catch up.
Exactly.
You know, you have to work on the now. Yes, it's hard, but don't focus on that all the time.
Exactly. And at the same time, when during this time, everyone is at everyone's reach. People are more relaxed. So this is where networking comes into play, Erica. This is where networking comes into place. This is where you meet new people, and meeting new people breeds new opportunities. And this is how a friend of mine told me, I don't know how true this is, but I will just take it for what it is. In the Chinese language, there's no word that says disaster. The next word, the closest word to disaster is opportunity. Look at this pandemic as an opportunity to do so much more. Reach out. Erica, now you're in a community of people now. You're with me, you're with James, you're with Sharika, and we have a network as well. So you just never know. You know, you are accustomed of working in the casino. Maybe this was done, it may appear as if it's done to you, but it could have been done for you. And we need to look at it as that as well. How can we make use of this opportunity to enhance ourselves? And I will finish what Kamai said. It's also important to search out opportunities for digital learning to upskill. And using budget apps is a great way to track expenses and income. So we do not have to go to school or do a course to learn how to track our money. There are so many free apps online. And there's a lot of free good things online that we can use to enhance ourselves, right? So Zoya Hyman, hey Zoya, it's very good to see you here. Creative, healthy distractions in coping. So this is what Zoya said. Zoya said, creative, healthy distraction, it assists with coping. So these here, what we're talking about, for persons who are paying attention, who are tuning in, you can find creative ways to be distracted from what, not forget what you have to deal with, not forget your commitments, but to distract yourself and gain from it. So at the end of all of this, you can say, you know what? I went into this with all of this stress, this financial issues, but I'm leaving out of this. I'm getting out of this, feeling more fulfilled. I work on my self-esteem. I did some courses. I enhanced myself. I learned to manage my own money even better. So you feel like, hey, during the period, you reward yourself. Yeah. Yeah, so Roxy said, take the good out of this pandemic. Henrietta Duran York, Elliot said, very true, Lady K. So, Erica, based on what the engagement today, how do you feel moving forward? How do you feel?
How would I feel right now?
Yes, and from the engagement we're having right now.
I feel so thankful because I feel like a little bit more free to tell everyone my story and that you listen to me. And I feel thankful for Charina to support me. And she tried to help me, even she had she situation, but she said she going to help me. And I feel more free, like it's something like I have inside, no? And I can't talk to nobody because not everybody is like going to help you or going to listen to you or they have time for you. So it's not a good like how you call it, like to say no, it's a good thing, like you are proud to say like you feel in this situation, no? It's something hard to say too. For me it's hard to explain everybody my story, but I feel free, I feel good. Right now I feel very well. I feel like to be like so this situation that happened to me is happened to everybody that can say right now because they had the limit or they feel embarrassed to tell anybody that they be passed through this or this, but and now I happy to share my story when you, Kiana, and you, Sharon, and James. I so happy you listen to me.
Thank you so much. And we are highly appreciative that you even make the decision to comment when Terrence shared the flyer of today's gaffing on his WhatsApp status. And I'm comfortable, I'm happy that you were able to feel a level of confidence and comfort to share that, for him to share that with me. And then your willingness, therefore, after to engage with me and to make a decision to be on this platform. So thank you very much for this. And as I said, this is not just Erica's story or James' story or Sharika's story. This is everyone's story. All of our lives are affected regardless of our social status, our financial status. We all are experiencing some level of shift. I myself, I am. It may not be like everyone else's, but I am as well. All right. So, any last words? Any last words? I think after this, we really need to talk on what can we do as a community. Next time, we will think about, how can we round people up and say, hey, what do you have? Do you have materials? How can we gather some of the things that we have in our homes that we aren't using? How can we just disperse? Because we do have things in our homes as well, that we can shuffle things around, especially when it comes to preparing first for the new school year. All right. So we are powerful people. We don't need to have leaders involved in every conversation, but we can help to move our nation forward by having conversations like this. So any last word from across the board? Any last word? Whoever go first.
Guess I've been sitting being patient the whole time. I'm trying to. The estrogen to testosterone level is a little high, so I'll just keep. That's why I've been sitting so silent. But what I'll do is, you keep doing shout outs to Terrence Ray. I'd also like to say, if it wasn't for Mr. Ray, I probably still wouldn't have any income whatsoever. I mean, back when he was in charge at the Today newspaper, he was one of the gentlemen, aside from I forgot the gentleman's name, who took me on as a cartoonist there for several years, and then when Irma destroyed their offices. But thanks to his St. Martin News Online, I still get to contribute once in a while to poking fun at, our St. Martin parliamentarians and whatnot. So, thanks to him. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to drop the link to my official artist page on your in the chat. That way, if anyone wants to visit, they can view and possibly if they want anything done. Because aside from cartoons, I do portraits and stuff like that as well. So.
Yes, of course you can do that. You can definitely do that. And for persons, let me just say this, for persons who are looking for someone to assist them, Erica's available for work. There's things that still are happening. So Erica's available for work. You can reach out to her directly, or you can reach out to me. And let's see how we can assist Erica and other persons. Who is next?
Okay, I'll talk. I really do want to continue to use this platform and ask the community to assist in any way. We are in this together. It's difficult for everybody, but with the little that we do have, let's just try to help each other out. That's very, very important. And let's do it now, not yesterday, not tomorrow, not next month, but it needs to start now. Thanks, James.
Erica, how about you for our last few words?
Well, thank you for make this platform, try to help everyone. And I hope everything work out. And they have some of my friends, they wanted to go into for the next time.
Okay, so, very nice.
Yeah, they just text me and tell me I wanted to go in because they see the thing, they want to share. I know everyone, I told you how I told you, know everyone, feel free to say what happened to them, They just keep it. That's the problem that was happened to me because I don't know. I had these people like I can talk, I can share my experience, I can share like what I been through, no? So when I find finally talking to you yesterday, I feel a little bit like, okay, I told my boyfriend, I feel a friend that I can talk. I asked him if he agree with me, say I agree with you and whatever, because he really feel the same, but it is the kind of person you're not going to say.
Yeah.
But
I,
he's happy.
yeah, I think having conversations like this is, especially when you have a partner, is very sensitive because one partner will be okay to talk, and another the other partner might say, you know what, this is too sensitive because of pride. I do not want, anyone to know our struggles because some people look at it as it's embarrassing. You know what I mean? So whenever there is topics like this, I always want to ask the guests or gaffers, people who join the conversation, is it okay with your partner to come and divulge on this platform because it's a public platform? I do not want after persons are on this platform and we're having such a good conversation, such a good gaff, for there to be some level of discomfort in their household, but I want persons to look at this platform as, hey, it's a way to sensitize, bring awareness to the entire public as to what is happening, because a lot of times we only see and understand when it's in front of our eyes, when it's exposed to us. People do not go out looking for knowledge all the time, looking to see what people are going through. We have to let them know, but we have to do so responsibly as well. We need to do so with intent, not just to rant, but with intent. And this platform has intent. So moving forward, Erica, we will speak again. And Sharika, James, thank you so much for being here for Ungaffing with Keoma. Thank you so much to everyone who was locked in. This is our 6th episode. And let us know how we are doing. Our 6th episode, the COVID series. Let us know how we are doing. Let us know if you like the time of the day. It's Thursday at 3 p.m. Let us know if 3 p.m. works for you. Maybe you can make us a suggestion for another time where you'll be more available. Let's just let us know what's happening. You can reach out to us if you have a story to share, an experience to share, a question you would like to ask. You can contact me directly on Messenger. You can send us an email. I will text the email. It's Amoek Media, AMOEK MEDIA @gmail.com. So everyone, thank you so much. Bye until next week. The challenge I have here every week is disconnecting myself from this thing. It's so crazy. I go through this every week. Let's see.